She could not believe her eyes. "Oh my gosh," said Amelia Bedelia. "What has happened to the house?" "This is terrible," said Amelia Bedelia. "Mr. and Mrs. Rogers must need me. Someone has ruined their house." She ran to the front door. "Ah," yelled Amelia Bedelia. "Help." Mr. and Mrs. Rogers rushed outside. "Hold still," said Mrs. Rogers. "I will get the bats out of here briefly." "Ah, Mr. Rogers, that would be a full-time job. She has made me bats for years." "You are untangled, Amelia Bedelia," said Mrs. Rogers. "Mrs. Rogers, come inside and relax." "Wow," said Amelia Bedelia. "Who wrecked your house?" "We did," said Mrs. Rogers. "We are getting ready for Halloween." Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. "Is that tonight?" said Amelia Bedelia. "How did you forget?" said Mr. Rogers. "Those bats on the front porch must have made you batty." Batty, 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 batty. "Sorry," said Amelia Bedelia. "I have been very busy. I was at school helping the children make their costumes." "Good for you," said Mrs. Rogers. "We invited all our neighbors for a Halloween party, and you too. Tonight, the best costume wins a prize." "Gosh," said Amelia Bedelia, "your house looks so spooky, spooky, spooky." "Thank you," said Mrs. Rogers. "The spookier, the better." "That is my idea," said Mr. Rogers. "What fun," said Amelia Bedelia. "I will help you clean up." "No, you won't," said Mr. Rogers. "I worked hard to get this place looking shabby." "Then I will help you mess it up," said Amelia Bedelia. "What should I do first?" "Hand me that hammer," said Mr. Rogers. "But first, crack a window. It has gotten very warm in here." Crash! "Oh no," said Amelia Bedelia. "I just tried to crack it, but it broke instead." "Amelia Bedelia," said Mr. Rogers, "I meant open the window a bit." "It is open," said Amelia Bedelia. "There are lots of bits and pieces." "It's not your fault, dear," said Mr. Rogers. "Besides, that broken window makes our house look truly haunted." Mr. Rogers shook his head and said, "I think you both have gone batty." "What is next?" asked Amelia Bedelia. "Let's see," asked Mrs. Rogers. "A lot of people are coming tonight. We should add a leaf on the table." "A leaf?" said Amelia Bedelia. "Yes, of course," said Mrs. Rogers. "A leaf or two makes the table look larger. Do you know where to find leaves?" "Of course I do," said Amelia Bedelia. "Before you go," said Mr. Rogers, "please hand me that witch." "What witch?" "That witch." "What?" said Amelia Bedelia. "No, what?" said Mr. Rogers. "Which what?" said Amelia Bedelia. "Not which what," said Mr. Rogers. "That witch there with the pointy hat." Amelia Bedelia held up two witches. They both had pointy hats and said, Which do you want?" "Whichever," said Mr. Rogers. "No, I mean whatever witch." "Which? Oh, skip it. Just get those leaves." Amelia Bedelia skipped away. She saw something wiggly under a leaf. "Sorry, Mr. Worm, but you go back," she said. Woo-hoo, called Mr. Rogers from the kitchen window. There is no time to do yard work. I need your help. Amelia Bedelia went inside. There we go, said Amelia Bedelia. Now the table looks smaller to me, but it is so much prettier. Mr. Rogers always has the greatest ideas. Mrs. Rogers always has the greatest ideas. Amelia Bedelia went into the kitchen. There you are, said Mrs. Rogers. You are so creative with food. Let's cook up some goodies. Goodies, said Amelia Bedelia. This warm casserole needs more spaghetti. Cranberry juice makes a tasty vampire punch. Crumble up cookies for the kitty litter cake. We need more eyeballs. I'll peel another bunch of grapes. Dried apricots make delicious ears. There was a knock at the kitchen door. Trick or treat, said Cousin Alk. Do you know any tricks, said Amelia Bedelia. But you can sample some of my treats. Thank you, said Cousin Alk. Mr. Rogers walked into the kitchen. Something smells good, he said. Well, it sure isn't me, said Cousin Alk. I have been working very hard to harvest pumpkins and load them into for the party tonight. How generous, said Mr. Rogers. Do you know how to carve jack-o'-lanterns? Jack-o'-lanterns. 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 I did one, said Cousin Alk. He showed them his pumpkin. That face looks very familiar, said Amelia Bedelia. Mrs. Rogers tried not to laugh. Very funny, said Mr. Rogers, but that pumpkin is too handsome. Have you got anything scarier? Wait here, said Cousin Alk. He went out to his truck. It looks exactly like Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers. Cousin Alk returned with his scariest scarecrow ever. Meet Oswald, said Cousin Alk. He scares away the birds for miles. Ooh, said Mrs. Rogers. He sends shivers down my spine. Oswald can sit here all night. He doesn't look scary to me, said Mr. Rogers. I don't know the meaning of the word fear. You don't, said Amelia Bedelia. The word fear is in the dictionary. I will look it up for you. Show me later, said Mr. Rogers. I must get my costume ready. I'm going to be a circus strong man. And I'm going to be a queen, said Mrs. Rogers. Amelia Bedelia, what is your costume going to be? And thank you guys for voting on this book. I just want to say thank you so much. Gee, said Amelia Bedelia, I do not have a costume. Sure you do, said Mr. Rogers. You wear a costume every day. Mrs. Rogers glared at her husband. What do you mean, said Amelia Bedelia. These are my clothes, not a costume. I have always dressed like this. Mr. Rogers felt bad about what he said. He was too embarrassed to say anything. Come along, Amelia Bedelia, said Mrs. Rogers. I have an idea for you and for Cousin Alk. See you tonight, said Mr. Rogers. Amelia Bedelia did not reply. So she just always wears maid outfit. That literally reminds me of Murder House from American Horror Story, when she just wears those maid clothes all the time because she doesn't like to clean people's houses in her own clothes. Ooh, creak. That night, as darkness fell, the house really did look haunted. Spooky music with scary sounds made it even more fun. Floorboards creaked, chains rattled, moans and groans filled the air. gosh, trick-or-treaters, said Mrs. Rogers. Would you get the front door, dear? Yes, your majesty, said Mr. Rogers. As soon as he went out of sight, Mrs. Rogers ran to the back door. While Mr. Rogers handed out treats at the front door, Mrs. Rogers let in a trick at the back door. Right this way, said Mr. Rogers. Right this way, said Mr. Rogers. Thank you, said a skeleton. I was dying to come in. The party food was a big hit. Care for an eyeball, said the girl to her dad. Yuck, he said. Yum, she said. They are good and disgusting. Try some finger food, said Mr. Rogers. Oh, cool, said the boy. These cookies have little fingers. They were Amelia Bedelia's idea, said Mr. Rogers. Where is she? Asked the boy. Good question, said Mr. Rogers. May I have 2 cups of blood? Asked the girl. My pleasure, said Mrs. Rogers. I love your costumes. Amelia Bedelia helped us, said the little boy. Wonderful, said Mrs. Rogers. Maybe you'll win the prize. Have you seen Amelia Bedelia? Asked Mr. Rogers. Not yet, said Mrs. Rogers. She might not come, thanks to you. What did I do wrong? Said Mr. Rogers. You know, said Mrs. Rogers. You made fun of her clothes. I feel terrible, said Mr. Rogers. I will apologize when I see her. Just then, Mr. Rogers shuddered. What is wrong? Said Mrs. Rogers. It sounds silly, said Mr. Rogers. That scarecrow gives me the creeps. Scaredy cat, said Mrs. Rogers. It looks alive, said Mr. Rogers. I feel like it is watching me. Ding dong. Mr. Rogers jumped. Relax, said Mrs. Rogers. You are imagining things. Go to see who is at the door. I wonder who's in that costume. Mr. Rogers opened the door. He smiled with a big smile. Well, well, he asked. I have never been so glad to see a ghost. Do come in, Amelia, Miss Ghost. Ooh, said the ghost as it floated into the house. Oh, Mr. Rogers was a perfect host. Care for refreshments? He asked. The ghost shook its head no. Well, said Mr. Rogers, would you like a jug? Our costume. Would you like to judge our costume contest? The ghost nodded yes. Wait, I'm confused. I thought Amelia Bedelia was in the scarecrow costume. Attention everyone, said Mrs. Rogers. It's time for our Halloween contest. Anyone who wishes to compete for the prize, step right this way. I am Sony Day, your TV weatherman. I forecast that I will win. You can't beat peace and love, this hippie has the grooviest t-shirt and bell bottoms. If I win, I will still be a pickle. I am all eyes, I am all ears, and I am right under your nose. Bravo, said Mrs. Rogers. Yes, said Mr. Rogers. I can tell that Amelia Bedelia helped them out a lot. Too bad she couldn't be here tonight. He winked at Mrs. Rogers. Just then, the clock struck 10. Okay, everyone, said Mrs. Rogers. Time to take off your masks. Uh-oh, said the ghost. I tried to slip away. Whoa there, said Mr. Rogers. It's time to put my foot down. Mr. Rogers stepped on the sheet. As the ghost kept walking, the sheet was pulled off to reveal. Where is Amelia Bedelia? Cousin Al looked very afraid. He pointed behind Mr. Rogers. He opened his mouth to speak, but he was scared speechless. Mr. Rogers wheeled around. They did a good job making the ghost look like Amelia Bedelia. Boo, screamed the scarecrow. Said Mr. Rogers. He threw up his barbell in the air. Mr. Rogers turned around and ran right into Cousin Alk. They both fell in a heap. Happy Halloween, said Amelia Bedelia. Amelia Bedelia, said Mr. Rogers. Ha ha, said Cousin Alk. I think you should call her Amelia Bedelia. Boo, Delia. Bravo, hooray, yippee. As your queen, said Mrs. Rogers, I declare Amelia Bedelia the winner for the costume. The next day, Amelia Bedelia and Cousin Alk came to clean up. Great party, said Cousin Alk. Thank you, said Mrs. Rogers. We will do it again next year. Start planning your costume now. I will, said Amelia Bedelia. But you have the best ideas. Those trick-or-treaters, said Mr. Rogers. Someone piled leaves on our table. That was me, said Amelia Bedelia. That was lovely, said Mrs. Rogers. They came. They made a beautiful centerpiece. Mrs. Rogers showed Amelia Bedelia how to add a leaf to the table. There we go, said Mrs. Rogers. Now let's see that table for lunch. Amelia Bedelia, said Mrs. Rogers. I want to apologize for yesterday. Apology accepted, said Amelia Bedelia. Try some